In the 12th of April, 1945. Somewhere in Bavaria, Germany. The war is not over, not yet, but feels like it could end at any moment. The air smells like smoke and mud and something else. Something older, the ruins of a country, the bones of a civilization that tried to devour the world. General George S. Patton steps out of his command vehicle. His boots hit the rubble. His ivory-handled revolvers catch the weak spring light. He adjusts his helmet. He looks around. A destroyed German town stretches before him. Buildings gutted by artillery. Storefronts collapsed. A church tower standing without its church. Children watch from broken doorways. Their faces carry an expression that has no name in any language. It sits somewhere between fear and exhaustion. Between hatred and something approaching hope. Patton has seen 1,000 towns like this one. He has ordered the artillery that destroyed most of them. He walks forward. His staff follows at a distance. They know better than to crowd him in moments like this. Patton needs space. He always has. The man thinks in wide open places, and then he sees her, a small girl, no older than 5, maybe 6, standing alone at the edge of the rubble. Her dress is gray from dust. Her shoes are mismatched, one too large, one too small. She has dark circles under her eyes that no child should ever have. She is holding something close to her chest. Patton stops walking. The girl does not run. She does not look away. She stares at him with eyes that are older than her face. Eyes that have seen things no child should ever witness. For a moment, the entire war shrinks down to this street, to these two people, a 4-star general who has driven armies across continents, and a small German girl with dust in her hair. What happens next gets recorded in the accounts of men who were standing nearby. What Patton does, what he says, what the girl does in return, and what he says after that, that is the moment that no one who witnessed it ever forgot. You have to understand who George Patton was. Not the movie version, not the speech in front of the flag, the real man. He was brilliant, profane, deeply spiritual, ruthlessly violent, sentimental in ways he almost never let anyone see. He wrote poetry in secret. He visited military cemeteries alone and wept. He believed in reincarnation, sincerely believed he had fought in every great war in history, in other bodies, other uniforms. He was a man of absolute contradictions held together by iron will. His soldiers feared him. They also loved him in the specific way soldiers love a commander who they believe can keep them alive. He had no patience for weakness, but he had a complicated, almost mystical feeling about innocence. Now, standing in this Bavarian town, he looks at this small girl and he crouches down. General George S. Patton, the man who slapped a shell-shocked soldier in Sicily and almost lost his career, for it crouches down in the rubble to put himself at the eye level of a 5-year-old German child. His staff watches in silence. The girl looks at him. Then she looks at his uniform, at his medals, at the stars on his helmet. Her little face is working something out, processing something enormous through a child's mind. And then she extends her arms. She holds out what she has been clutching against her chest. It is a toy, a small wooden horse, hand-carved, worn smooth from years of handling. One ear is chipped. The paint has almost entirely faded. It is, in every material sense, a small, broken thing. But you can tell simply by looking at her face that it is her most important possession, her last possession. The one thing she kept. She is giving it to him. Imagine you are standing 20 feet away. Imagine you are watching this. What do you do? What do you say? How do you hold your face together? How do you reconcile what this country did to the world with what this child is doing right now? Patton doesn't move for a long moment. He stares at the horse in her hands. His jaw is tight. Something crosses his face that his staff cannot name. His aide would later write that he had never seen Patton look like that before. Not on the battlefield. Not in the command tent. Not anywhere. He takes the horse, carefully, with both hands. He held it like it was made of glass. This man who had held pistols and maps and the hands of dying men, he held that little toy like it could break. He looks at it for a long time. Then he looks at the girl, and he speaks. Here is what the orders said. Non-fraternization. The official Allied policy in 1945 was strict. American soldiers were not supposed to form connections with German civilians. No socializing, no gifts, no visible warmth. The logic was political and practical. These were enemy civilians. The denazification process required distance. Psychological distance. Moral distance. Patton himself had enforced this policy in his own way. He held deep contempt for the ideology that had produced this war. He had seen the concentration camps. He had ordered his soldiers to witness them so they would understand physically, viscerally, with their bodies what this war had been about. He was not a soft man. He was not a politically cautious man either. His career had nearly ended twice for saying things he was not supposed to say. His superiors, Eisenhower above all, spent significant energy managing the diplomatic consequences of George Patton's mouth. But there was also this. Patton had a complicated relationship with German military culture. He respected German soldiers as fighters, perhaps more than was comfortable to admit in 1945. He believed that ordinary Germans and the Nazi regime were not always the same thing. He held views on this that were deeply controversial. That would become even more controversial in the months ahead, until his career finally collapsed under them. So when he crouches in front of this little girl, this child who has survived the war that he helped wage, there are 100 forces pulling at him simultaneously. The orders say, keep distance. The policy says, do not fraternize. The politics say, be careful. And somewhere deeper than all of that, somewhere in the part of George Patton that wrote poems and visited graves alone, something else is speaking. She is 5 years old. She has nothing. She has given him the only thing she has. What does that mean? Not politically, not strategically. What does it mean? His aide would recall that in the seconds before Patton spoke, the silence was so complete you could hear a building settling in the rubble 50 meters away. And then Patton said something quiet. Something in the gap between the general and the man. Something that the people standing nearby carried with them for the rest of their lives. He said, "Little girl, you are the only German today who has given me something worth keeping." He stood up slowly. He looked at the horse one more time. Then he looked at his aide and set his voice back to its familiar iron register. "Make sure she has food before we leave this town." He pocketed the wooden horse. He walked on. The aide later wrote, "He never mentioned it again. Not that day. Not ever. But I know he kept it. I saw it once, months later, in his personal effects. A small wooden horse with one chipped ear. The war in Europe ended less than a month later. The 8th of May, 1945. VE Day. The celebrations swept across London and New York and Paris. In the streets of American cities, strangers embraced. Sailors kissed nurses. People wept without knowing exactly why. From relief, from grief, from the staggering weight of what had just ended. Patton did not celebrate, not publicly, not in the way others did. He had always been more at home in war than in peace. He understood the machinery of conflict with an almost supernatural clarity. Peace made him restless. Peace made him dangerous in a different way. In the months that followed, his political instincts, which had always been erratic, grew worse. He made statements about the denazification process that horrified his superiors. He compared Nazi party members to American Republicans and Democrats, ordinary political affiliations, nothing more. Eisenhower reprimanded him. The press destroyed him. He was removed from command of the Third Army. George Patton, the man who had arguably done more than any other American commander to break the back of German resistance in Western Europe, was sidelined. Given a meaningless assignment, made irrelevant. He took it with dignity, mostly. He spent the final weeks of his life giving speeches, writing his memoirs, and hunting in the Bavarian countryside that he had once chased an entire army through. On the 9th of December 1945, his staff car was involved in a collision outside Mannheim, a low-speed accident, a minor collision by any reasonable standard, but Patton was thrown forward. His neck was broken. He was paralyzed from the shoulders down. He died 12 days later, at the 21st of December, 1945. He never made it home. At the time of his death, among his personal effects, the revolvers, the books, the battle maps, the unfinished memoir there was a small wooden horse, hand-carved, one ear chipped, the paint almost entirely gone. No one in his family knew exactly where it came from. No record explained it. It was simply there, in the box with the things that had been closest to him. His daughter later said she kept it. She didn't know what it was. She kept it because it clearly mattered to her father. Because a man who collected trophies and medals and the souvenirs of victory had kept, above all of those things, a broken child's toy from a ruined Bavarian town. The question of why, of what it meant to him, was never answered. Not in any letter, not in any diary entry, not in any recorded conversation. George Patton took that answer with him. There is a version of history that is clean.